Do you think UFOs, the paranormal, weird history, cryptozoology, and outsider art are pretty darn cool? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to High Strangeness with your host, Steve Berg.
The video version.
Yeah, but I love that you live in Los Feliz now because I think it's just such a. Also, it's like such a occulted, like it has such a rich, like occult history and like weird history.
Oh my God. Yeah, I know. It's leaving the Pacific Northwest, I did have a little bit of fear about leaving that vibe behind.
Yeah.
Right? That
Mhm.
has raised me, that has cultured me into this esoteric explorer of sorts.
Right.
But LA is maybe even more weird.
It's weird because like on the outside, it's like I feel like LA is like Twin Peaks, where if you look at it from the outside, oh, it's sunny, there's surfers, there's beautiful people, there's Hollywood.
Right.
But if you just start scratching away at the surface, you're like, oh, there is like a seedy dark. And I don't mean this in a negative way. I mean it kind of in a good way. But there's like this underground esoteric, like occulted history. A lot of
Yes.
weird things have happened. UFO contactees are hovering around in the
Mhm.
1950s. I mean, the Manly P. Hall Philosophical Research Center, which is very close to you, you could walk there.
And I do.
Oh, you lucky dog. I mean, that place is heaven on earth. I love it there.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime I just need a little bit of a boost, I go there. And I produce monthly events there as well. So
No kidding.
I work with those folks now, and I've got to see it even while I've been down in here in LA for the last 7 or 8 months. I've got to witness firsthand the transformation of PRS into an artistic, cultural, esoteric force once again in this community.
Right.
And to be a part of that in any sort of way has just been incredibly gratifying. And you move to a city for the first time. I mean, I've been here off and on for the last 15 to 16 years and developed friends that are very close to family, and so. But on top of that, to also come to a place like this and have an HQ such as that,
Yeah.
that embraces and welcomes, such esoteric thought,
Yeah.
is I just feel like the luckiest guy in the world.
Well, you are. I will say, and the wonderful thing about LA too is when you move there. At least when I moved there, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be the weirdest guy in my neighborhood for sure. I always have been. Like I'm gonna weird up LA even more. And I'm like basically like a math teacher there. Like I might as well be wearing Dockers and an Oxford shirt tucked in because like.
Right.
Just when you think you're the biggest weirdo, it's like, dude, that ain't true.
Yeah, it's so funny and so right. There's always someone a few levels above you on that. And listen, maybe that's grounding in some sort of way. Maybe
It
that's
is.
reassuring to us that are involved in this. Is like we haven't gone too far down the rabbit hole because that guy that has crystals in between his toes and his shoes. Well, he's next level, isn't he?
Yeah. He's hardcore. I'm just like, it's child's play for me, I'm wearing like an obscure, like new wave shirt from the 80s. And like, no, that's not weird, man. You're just like mainstream. Folks, welcome to another episode of High Strangeness. If you haven't guessed, my guest today is the wonderful, the great, I have been wanting to talk to this guy for years, Jim Perry. Jim, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you, Steve. I've been wanting to talk to you for years, and I feel like we've been ships in the night, and I'm just very grateful for you having me on your program.
Oh, buddy. Well, I really appreciate your time. You are a busy man, and this is just great. I like to come out of the gate with like really hard-hitting, pressing questions, Jim. So first off, did you have a nice breakfast or lunch today?
Oh my God. It's been a great day. I just ate lunch before we hopped on here.
Okay.
I'm being good today, Steve.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I had a protein shake
Beautiful.
for breakfast.
And what were the contents? Did you add some like fruit in there? Maybe oat milk?
It was one of those fancy bottled ones.
Sure. Grab and go.
Yeah, like that a tech company probably invented somewhere. That
Yes.
I'm not sure the source of the chemicals that are flowing through my body, but I didn't have to make my own eggs this morning, so there's
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Or be tempted by the bagel sandwich up the street, which
Oh,
happens
boy.
every single fucking morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I
There's a
walked to
lo-
Blue Bottle, which is my daily routine, and got a NOLA style latte.
Oh, buddy.
And then fast forward to lunch right before we are chatting, and I went down the street, got a little steak plate from Tender Greens.
Oh, you know what? Tender greens, I can't look. A lot of these places that just do salads, right? They can get a little plain Jane, but tender greens, I stand behind them. That was a go-to lunch spot for me when I was out, in the mix, driving around to auditions. Stopping at Tender Greens, it's satisfying, it's delicious, and you feel light and lively afterwards.
You sure do, and that was my hope. I didn't want to log myself down with some sort of giant exotic burrito.
Right.
Before we were talking, Steve.
Right.
I didn't want to be, creating all sorts of interesting soundscapes for you. And losing my train of thought as I drift into sleep.
Yeah, I hear you. Like, would I like to have a spaghetti meatball lunch every day? You betcha, but no work would get done.
Oh my God. Spaghetti and meatballs is not something people would consider, I think, a lunch option in my experience with entrees. But fuck, if that wouldn't be just a great, let's shut this bitch down meal.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's shut it down for the day. We're done.
We're
Bring it
clocking
on.
out. Yeah. Bring out we're going to need extra parm on this, sir. Go down to Palermo's on Vermont and just go get a chicken parm. I mean, just go crazy.
That's when you're back in town. Let's do spaghetti lunch.
I agree.
That's required.
That's where deals are made. That's where you close the big one. It's not on the golf course, folks. It's at an Italian restaurant where you're having a very carb heavy lunch.
Yeah, I love it. And then you take a nap together at the end.
Absolutely, yeah. You talk about your dreams, try to decipher them in a Jungian way together. Jim, you're a man after my own heart. Now, Jim, there's a second part to these hard hitting questions, and I'm not trying to throw you for a loop, but what music are you listening to right now? Is there an album that is striking your fancy that you could recommend? I like to talk about music. It lets people know who you are.
Well, I'm not exclusive in that my tastes are eclectic, yet they are, and it challenges sometimes people that ride along with me in my vehicle to go like, okay, we're listening to some track from Fleetwood Mac, and then directly to sort of this industrial band Health. And then we're circling back to like Gin Blossoms or something. So you never quite know what I never quite know what I will be listening to on any given day. But I think the last album that I was listening to, or the last musician or artist that I was listening to while I was coming to the office today was probably some old record from The Kills is actually what I was listening to. Sure. Yeah. So it was one of those kind of mornings. And then, I kind of actually like to think before I get in my vehicle to brave the traffic of Los Angeles that is, so well noted. I like to choose out kind of like beforehand what I want to listen to. I think about it. I go,
me too.
What's my playlist today?
Yeah.
And then, it sometimes it's something like, an artist like Rival Consoles, or it's Caterina Barbieri, to like the Eagles or something. I don't. It's like
you're over the well. I am a mood guy too. I like. I pair everything: my food, my music, the art I consume, the conversations I have, to mood. And also, I'm a big phases person. Right now, Jim, I cannot stop listening to psych rock.
Oh man,
I'm in that psych rock phase, man. Repetition for playing the same 3 chords for 7 minutes, droning in my head. Maybe a little sitar and some,
love it.
Oh, buddy, I can't get enough of it. I'm in that psychedelic phase right now.
Dude, I love it, and that is a mood. I have a recommendation for people if they're like driving around and want something kind of chill, but like a little bit psyche, I suppose, but like. There's this group, Hermanos y Gutierrez. It's these brothers, and they play sort of Mexican psych rock. And goddamn if it isn't great.
Did you see Hermanos Gutierrez?
Yeah.
I'm writing it down right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be opening up a nice Cobb Franc tonight and put that on the backyard. Buddy,
There you
this
go.
is huge. This is huge.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, this
enjoy.
is already going great. I think we should stop right here. You know, this is
we're done.
well, I want to butter your bread a little bit, man, because I have been such a fan of Euphomet for so long. It's really one of those shows to where I think it elevated. I don't know what kind of label to put, like high strange art, I guess, or paranormal art. Like, I think it was one of the first examples for me personally where I'm like, oh, this guy's doing an art project. It's not like it was just as much art as it was documenting the paranormal. So one, I mean, I have a lot of questions about your show, but like, it's also, I want to say, I was telling you before we started, I've been driving a lot, like a lot of road trips for work. And I have been listening to old episodes. And did you set out to make the greatest road trip show ever? Or was that just like a lucky result?
Thank you. That is like, oh man, that's such high marks. I appreciate those comments. You know, you're a great storyteller. And so it means a lot coming from you.
Thank you.
Maybe intentionally, I set out to make a road trip show. I think that those kind of late night road trip vibes have been heavily, an influence for me. You know, those late night desert drives listening to Art Bell,
Yeah.
Listen, they're foundational, and still to this day, I listen to Art all the time, and talk about, audio suiting your mood or enhancing it. That is a vibe.
It is.
And I would hope that sort of cinema soundscape, that vibe can help accentuate.
Yes.
Is what I am doing with the show. Like, I'm always considering how are people feeling at any given moment in the story, and how can whatever soundscape we shape around this help, I guess, contextualize or enhance the experiencer's story at any given moment.
Right. Because I mean, like when I first heard it, I was like, oh, this could be on NPR. Like it's like NPR level, Ira Glass level production value. But it's also done by someone who is deeply passionate. It's not like you're like, well, I'm trying to find an angle into like the cool podcast world. Let me learn about the paranormal and put out some content. It's like, no, this is done from a place of deep passion. And when you can mix passion, the paranormal, and art together, it's hard to do. But man, when it does, it's so important to me. Like, I mean, like, like this, your show, and I will just be around for a long ass time, man. Like,
I hope so.
yeah. It's just a really relevant, relevant project you did. And like, I don't know what else to say. It's awesome.
Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope it's around for a long time. I hope that I have the ability and the grace to be able to work on this project for a very long time, for maybe forever. I mean, I
hope so.
It's what I want to do. I am, sort of not in Los Angeles because I have a script I want to have produced or some shit. I am here to do this program, right? And to do others and expand kind of the business of podcasting. And I would say my intentions are to infuse as much artfulness as possible in that process. And I hope that I can just continue working on it for as long as possible.
Well, you're an inspiration, I think, to a lot of people, because I mean, like, I really do believe, like, when I've had this. There are some people, like, I remember one time someone was trying to be critical of my show, and they're like, well, his show is just like entertainment. I'm like, yes, exactly. Thank you. I'm not an academic, man. Like, it is absolutely entertainment I'm trying to do, like everything I do, I want to be entertaining. So I do not see that as a bad thing. I see it as a great thing. I think podcasts they should be, they don't need to be informative, but if they are, well, if they're entertaining, they're going to stick with you a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that, audio as a form of entertainment is sort of timeless, right? And the more the infrastructure tries to convince everyone that, no, actually what you want is video. We know this. You want more video. It's them just not fucking getting it.
Yeah, I agree.
Because audio storytelling is not going anywhere.
No.
Like, it's here and it's been here. It just, maybe the conduit to how you get to it, the platform or the mechanism or even maybe some of the formats, will change per taste and lifestyle. But, in general, it's such a holy ground to be communicating with people within, I guess, the arena of their imagination.
Right.
Because when you're telling stories through audio, you are requiring really the listener to be a participant in that project.
Right.
And there's nothing more metaphysical to me than that manifestation of these ideas. It's really fucking incredible when you think about it.
It really is. And I almost think I am really like, I do think there is a co-creative aspect to our strangeness. And like you were just saying, like, that is the part about like reading books, why I still love reading novels and why I still love radio and the audio format, because there is a co-creation. I'm creating the visuals. You're giving me the prompts and kind of like the area to play with, but like, it's up to the listener. You get to direct the movie. You get to help direct the movie. You could actually say like, oh no, maybe we should do a master shot here. Like, to me, as a person who loves cinema and audio form, it's such a good marriage. And
it's great.
Really, I think, were the first person to kind of evolve paranormal content to that level.
Wow, thank you. I mean, I'm standing on the shoulders of like storytelling giants in this format. There's a lot of when I started this, they were purely just called radio stories,
right?
And I looked at what public radio was doing. I looked at NPR and even CBC, and there was some great reporting going on that was just on the border of something very strange, but never taking that next step of completely immersing themselves in the experiencer's lives. And even the content that had paranormal elements, I never felt that the journalist, the producer, the writer, or the storyteller was like breathing that same air at those individuals experientially to bring that back to their writing, to create, if not like an audible sort of first person perspective on what those things are, at least to help create the context of that story, the tone of the story. Like, how cool would it be, and what a great excuse it would be to go and travel and embed and be a part of that experience.
Yes.
And I think at the time when I created Euphomet, at first it was a radio talk show on a low power FM station in Seattle.
Beautiful.
And I would infuse little bits and pieces of documentary stuff as I was really learning how to produce within that format in the audio space. Now, like, previously I had done it for, sort of brands and all sorts of stuff for like agency work. So I was able to take those skill sets, start to apply it, start learning the craft from people within public radio who had already done it in a very, massive level. I mean, this was still in the days when like Serial was new,
right?
So
right.
There wasn't a lot of like, hey, examples of people like telling stories in this way really within the podcast space. So, I think all's to say, when I started as an enthusiast, as someone that was open and endlessly curious. But over time, and especially once I started going out into the field, things quickly changed. And the enthusiast became experiencer.
Oh, okay.
And then the dialogue changes in terms of how you create this thing. The questions you ask yourself are different, because although you continue becoming curious, you also have to aid that with a level of empathy. And you have to continue being grounded to be a reliable storyteller.
Right.
So all of those things started to happen and still happen to this day within Euphomet. It's very tenuous sometimes, my relationship to like what is actually possible and what's not. I used to say that I don't know what I believe, and even that is in question. And I think that still holds true. But if I'm to be just so completely honest about my own position on the paranormal topics, is that I do believe that these experiences happen and that they are real to the people that experience them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe that's all that matters.
I love that. I echo that so much. Like in terms of even just like, I've been, since I started doing the show, I've been able to talk to experiencers. People now every once in a while contact me in Nebraska. And there are some people I'm like, I just don't believe what they're saying to me. And I could be wrong. That's a bad take. But there are a lot of people where I'm like, at the very least, I don't know if they saw a, dog man, but I feel like they believe what they saw. Like, I don't think they're lying to me. Like Whitley Strieber. Like, I don't think Whitley Strieber's making it up. Now, did he see and experience everything he says he did? I have no idea. I wasn't there. But at the very least, and like you kind of harp on this, like what are your, I shouldn't say your mantra, but like it's almost like a slogan for your show, and maybe even your philosophy is finding that human connection, because that is what we can learn about for sure. We definitely can get data off that, and find patterns.
Yeah.
So I love that take that, that's kind of like, seems like you're focusing on the people and the stories.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it's what I'm most interested in now, is the human element. I always have, but when I started Euphomet, I was not unfamiliar with the space of the paranormal.
Right.
I was a, sort of ardent student of this stuff for as long as I can remember. I was 7 years old or something.
Right.
I don't know.
So same here. Like you don't really remember a time not being into it.
No, I was
hear ya.
always into it. And so over the course of that time, I think I started Euphomet when I was like maybe like 31 or 32. Maybe a little younger. But over that course of time, you see how stories are shaped. You see the ability for some of these narratives within the paranormal space, especially once it starts entering into sort of UFO government conspiracy stuff. You see that like it will never end. It's an endless mystery. And therefore, how do you communicate and create good stories within these worlds that feel satisfying to the listener and that maybe provide some resolution to those people that are actually experiencing these things?
Right.
And so what was important to me is that, this shit's strange, and we could sit here and talk about books that have been done by guys like, John Keel, or even Robert Anton Wilson,
Sure,
Jacques Vallée, just George P. Hansen. The trickster element is real in this shit, and it will dangle a nice little narrative out in front of you, but most often that does not result in any sort of conclusive ending to any sort of narrative. It is just pushing you further down the rabbit hole, which is cool, and you can tell stories in that way. But for humans, there are resolutions. There are moments in people's lives where they rectify events, when they integrate experiences, when they find the sort of the I guess they find the relationship between their traumas and an unknown experience.
Right.
Where who really is that entity behind the door?
Yeah.
That might be your own past.
Right.
And within that space, I felt like, oh, now I know how to tell these stories.
Yeah.
Like it's clear, it's just a story. It's not a story about the entity or the experience itself. It's a story about this person. It's a story about the experiencer. And it's, at the end of the day, a very human story.
Yeah, and like this high strangeness in general, I believe, works like a David Lynch movie, where here's a story, it's disjointed, it operates under dream logic, and the ending is not wrapped up in a bow. One, because life isn't like that at all,
Yeah.
but neither is High Strangeness. There's no case I can think of where it's like, well, there's the answer. We got it. You know, like everyone walks away into the sunset. I don't, and for me, a guy who loves absurdity and surrealism, that is an attractive aspect. And I think for a lot of people who are really into the disclosure stuff is no, they want an answer and the government has the answer. And to me, I sometimes feel sorry for them. So I'm like, I don't know if UFO activism is a real healthy, like, you know, like, thing to participate in, because it really, it foments distrust, anger, you know, and we all know there's a hard right-wing aspect to ufology that's always been there. And, you know, going back to the 50s, and it just gets kind of ugly to where I'm like, I like the folksy part. I like the weird stories. I like a flying saucer that lands in a rural road and little fuzzy creatures walk out, you know, like.
Yeah, they're offering people pancakes.
Yes, absolutely. That is the business for me.
Yeah.
You know, and like you were kind of saying too, like with George P. Hansen, the trickster, there is such a self-negating aspect, especially with like UFOs. It's like, well, we have flying saucers. Well, just when you think you've wrapped your head around, we're starting to get somewhere. Nope, we're gonna do triangles now. Like, you know, like it really is that we're gonna lead you down this road, and then sorry, you went down the wrong place, and now you're 10 years behind, and you know.
Yeah.
But that's part of the fun stuff. It's like if you're okay with like not knowing and just enjoying the mystery, it's very gratifying.
Oh, so much so. And, you know, I find myself so captivated by not only how these experiences affect the individual, but how they affect us throughout culture and our communities, our individual communities. That's been a newer element to my work, I think, within the last few years, is you know, considering historic elements and thinking about how they may have affected us now.
Right.
And you know, that is another way how, you know, the numinous can be accounted for being a player within the construct of our life, and
Yes.
and how it is itself helping shape and or at least collaborate on creating narrative.
Right.
And these are things that we can track. These are stories that we can tell, and our efforts result in a much richer perspective on who we are as people, and I think help connect us with our lineage of belief systems.
Yes.
You know, of our pagan heritages, you know, of our kind of, I guess, our openness to engage with this phenomenon as something not supernatural,
Right.
but rather natural, just sort of unknown.
Yeah. Unknown and rare. Yeah. You know, like it's like I think that's a really astute way of putting it, I think, because it may not be, it almost feels like calling it supernatural is disingenuous now at this point. Into a way, it's like, no, it's because like I personally believe, I shouldn't say believe, I don't really have a belief system. I'm more attracted to the idea that all this stuff is emanating around us, kind of like a more John Keel type way, super spectrum, I suppose, or a valet type way.
Yeah.
Where these aren't like far out external things to Earth. They're things that are around us all the time, have been here the whole time, and they may need us to manifest. Like I'm not so sure if like if a big, like, I'm not so sure like a UFO can be in the sky without a human being observing it.
Right.
You know, like I might be wrong about that. I know they can appear at to radars, but radar is a form of observation. So you know, like, but
yeah, I you know, listen, there's I think I put a lot of stock in that as a theory that seems, you know, at least very fascinating, you know, and revealing of our relationship to consciousness, and maybe how, maybe hints towards how all of this actually works.
Right.
You know, which is, we are but one piece of this kind of cosmic menagerie of entities, energies, specimens that are all kind of swimming around these different frequencies, and perhaps some of them really are not present unless there is a witness there to create a presence,
Right.
right? And all of this seems relational
Mm-hmm.
to me, or at least that idea is very appealing.
Yeah.
That the phenomenon. Listen, I think, an openness or a belief, I guess believing in the possibility of these things, whatever that means, whatever those things are, seems to be enough for many people to generate a communication or build a relationship with whatever they are. And I'm
Yes.
talking spirit divination, C5 and calling for UFOs,
Mm-hmm.
premonitions, ESP ability, whatever. Like all of it seems to require a level of openness to help create what that experience is.
Right.
And so, like, all's to say that gives credence to like what you're talking about and what Keel had wrote about at
Right.
length, and others as well. But it's when you, I think, land on that observation as something that could be possible, right? That changes some people's relationship with this stuff, and let's be honest, it makes it really fun.
I agree. I agree because like here's like we were talking about with like why audio is so great is because you co-create with the creator of the audio. And I
Yeah.
think I don't know why, like I don't have strong evidence to back any of this up. It's just how I feel about it right at this point. In a year or two, I probably will be like, nope, actually they're Venusians. Like I might go full circle, like who knows?
Right.
I'm curious I want to ask this, I should have asked this up top, but I mean, like, do you have production experience? Like, were you a film student, or like, I feel like you're obviously you're an artist, but like, I guess how did you go from this 7-year-old kid who is a fan of this stuff, voraciously reading and consuming everything you can, to participating and wanting to create content in this world?
Yeah. Well, I think as long as I can remember, I've been making stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that was like drawing comic books or like making little videos with a handy cam,
Right.
or booking fake wrestling matches, or like writing scripts, like whatever it may be, is just, or writing songs, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I've always been creating things, and I thought that the outlet that I'd appreciate the most, or that I wanted to be a part of when I was younger, was filmmaking. So I went, like any aspiring filmmaker, I went to theater school.
So did I.
And just did a bunch of movement classes and learned how to fall.
Yeah.
And so needless to say, I dropped out of college.
Smart.
I met the girl who would soon be my wife at that time, and I started to look towards, okay, well, how do I shape all of these interests of mine into a sort of a logical way to make money?
Yeah.
I wanted to, like, for a second, entertain the idea that it wasn't all about me, and it wasn't necessarily about creating art without some level of guaranteed compensation behind it. I wanted to start a career, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought like ad agencies would be good for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back to school as a graphic designer. I went through a trade school program that was like highly noted at that time in Seattle. I soon got an internship at an agency, working 3 jobs at one time, and working or going to school. And I got this job, and quickly was hired, and mostly because I could do a little bit of everything just by the nature of my my kind of experiments since I was a kid. Just like, oh, I know how to do that. Like, I used to do that in high school. I did this and that. One thing led to another. I'm producing broadcast commercials there. I am running social media ad campaigns. I'm an art director for a magazine.
Wow,
this
that's great.
place was just it. It allowed me so many opportunities to work on really high level projects. Some of them in which I like had no business like being anywhere around. Like if I look
Right.
back at it, but like I was just there and I was ready for it, and some of it was really good work, and I was excited about it. But as many people experience in kind of corporate the corporate environment that maybe have sensibilities closer to you and I,
Uh-huh.
I became very disenchanted by what I was doing.
Yeah.
Who I was considerate about who I was doing this to.
Mhm.
And I had an experience in this place called East Eddy Ranch. I had
Oh,
an experience,
sure. Jim Gillian's ranch?
yeah.
Yeah.
And during that weekend, I believe I connected with some sort of entity, some sort of light, and it was through a meditative process. And it completely shifted my perspective on what I was doing. It was a complete game changer. And at
Wow.
that time, I had already started messing around with like Euphomet as a radio show. But at that moment, I said, I need to switch everything that I'm doing. I quit my job and I started working on the podcast and other personal sort of creative initiatives full time. And it was a very, very
Wow.
important thing for me to do. It was very financially irresponsible what I had done.
It's risky. It's risky, man. You had a good thing going.
I did, and that I pulled the rug out from under my trajectory in terms of being a person that what I thought was the career that I wanted,
Yeah.
and that the people around me also felt that was best. So it was very it was a rash decision that I don't regret because of the place that I found myself soon after, which was in pursuit of sort of a greater, I guess, mission personally,
Uh-huh.
which was to connect my passions with creating art around them, creating things. So I don't regret it, but it was very fucking stupid at the same time. I don't know if I would tell
Well,
other people to do such things, but
Jim, I will say, first off, it was I mean, I'm not trying to like explain your experience to you, but like it's interesting. You're on this trajectory, a trajectory of stability and a nice career path. Probably, I mean, I did a million commercials. I know people who are in the ad game. They make a lot of money. It's a lucrative career.
yeah.
But you go to this branch and you get injected with some really hardcore novelty that shakes your paradigm, and then you're like, maybe I should take this as I mean, that is
Yeah.
a great origin story, my friend. Like that is
Thank you.
yeah, you did not that did not disappoint. That is really fascinating. I feel like that novelty when I'm in a creative rut, I will just drive out to rural Nebraska, usually to a high strange location that where something's been reported, and walk around. Even with what I'm working on is not like paranormally related. I find that just injecting somewhere, not like, you know what, I'm gonna close my laptop, drive somewhere, pack a sack lunch, and just sit by a cornfield for an hour or two.
Yeah.
That novelty in my day always helps my art. Always.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like if you're in a rut or like feeling down, it's like, oh, my career is so boring and stale. I would say to anyone, I mean, this isn't my idea. This is like a Terrence McKenna idea, but like you can inject novelty. Sometimes it happens naturally and organically, but you can inject it yourself. And I love that story. That excites me.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, yeah, novelty is so important.
It is.
Random acts of impulse, I think, are important as well. There was this guy named Guy Debord who was like this
That name
French
sounds
philosopher.
familiar. Okay.
He kind of was at the forefront of the Situationists,
Okay,
which
yes,
was
sure.
this movement in France. And these people, they would just encourage, there was a whole sort of social political movement around it. But I think what I found most fascinating doing some research about this was that they inspired randomness. They inspired, just see what happens walking down a street at a weird time of day and see what you notice. And there was an entire sort of quantum random number generator app named Randonautica that was actually based off of this philosophy from Guy Debord. And guess what? Like, during these novel experiences, right, people would find novel prizes.
Yes.
They would be encountered with things that were like, well, if I never walked through the store, synchronicities would occur, right? Totem animals would occur. There was a spiritual or metaphysical nature to some of these adventures that people would find themselves on based upon these random acts of novelty. And if anything, it feels as if. Let me step back. Sometimes listeners will ask me, what is a way that I can engage with a phenomena? They're like, I don't know if I want to see a UFO. Like, that's kind of scary. Like, I don't know if I want to ghost hunt, but how can I feel some of that?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you said it. It's put yourself in a place, kind of maybe even out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Create a novel experience for yourself and just kind of pay attention a little bit and be open to what may happen. And it just so happens that whatever is going on, the universe, consciousness, the high strange soup, is very welcoming to that.
I think so too. And I have no way to prove it, but that's just a philosophy that one makes me very happy, and also it feels like reassuring. It's like, oh, I know what I need to do when I'm in like a weird situation. It's like, I have a great novelty. For me, it just works. And I think I was listening to a Terence McKenna lecture a decade ago, and he was talking about that. He's like, you want to get out of your rut, you want to get out of your own head, create novelty for yourself. He's like, it's not that hard, folks. And I was like, huh, like, and that really resonated with me. It's been kind of like my little thing. I try to, like, if I have a friend, who's like depressed or something like that, I will try to take them for a novel hangout.
Yeah.
Doing something that they don't, not golf or what they usually do. I'm like, no, let's go look at this haunted house, this apartment, the White House Apartments, downtown Omaha. Walk around, they're like, well, I don't even like this stuff. And at the end, they're like, that was kind of fun and spooky. I'm like, yeah, see?
Right.
Like,
yeah. No, it's so great. I mean, you're expanding your field of awareness through that. You're challenging your own like sense of self in some degree, especially if you're a person who's very relational to your sort of setting, right? And there is something quite magical about that. I mean, I think that within that is probably magical practice. There's probably some sort of manifestation happening. If we had maybe a practicing witch on with us now, they might be able to even tell us of ritual practice that included such things.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like, yeah, for someone that wants to, I guess, inspire high strangeness around them, do something novel, do something random, and see what the fuck happens.
Exactly. And then report back to us.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll take this data, folks.
Email Steve.
Yeah, email me. We'll put it in the database, crunch some numbers. It is interesting. You mentioned a random number generator. Then I'm going to jump on to some weird questions I have for you. The speculation station, I like to call it. But I'm shooting this project really quick. No, I've been shooting this project for like the last 4 months with this guy named Nathan Isaac of the Penny Royal podcast.
Yes,
great guy.
Friends.
Yeah, he's a rad dude, and I love him. And he is super smart, like off the charts, brilliant. Like, I feel so dumb around him.
Yeah.
But so we've been going out to places in Kentucky that are off the charts, weird, or have a lot of reports. And he and his partner Darian West built this random number generator, and we have been using it. It's like a laptop device with like a light, and we've been using it when we go out. And I'll tell you what, the results are very interesting.
Yeah.
Where things stop becoming random, the closer we get to weird things. And I'm like, I was very skeptical. I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work. And I don't know like if it's working per se, but we're getting interesting results with it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
He told me a little bit about this device, and you like cut this if you need to,
Yep.
if you haven't talked about this, or maybe it's the same thing you're talking about. But is this the device that essentially, what is the term? It monitors the entropy.
Yes, that's exactly it. Yes. Yep. I was trying to think of that word too. I was like, it's a physics word.
Yeah.
It does.
Unreal.
It monitors entropy. I mean, like that's the kind of stuff he's creating right now.
I want to see that so fucking bad.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a pretty portable. They've got it down. It was, for a while it was not such a portable thing, but now it's portable where we're taking it out with us when we go to like caves. I mean, we spent the night in a cave. I shouldn't be talking about that so much, but like we did spend the night in a cave a couple weeks ago. It was the most horrifying night of my life. I'll be honest. Like it was a nightmare.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, but he brought that thing with us, and when we had some experiences, guess what? Things stopped being random. I'm not even joking. It kind of blew my mind.
Holy shit!
Yeah, dude.
Well, that's exciting. I'm planning my next trip down there.
Oh.
I'd love to connect. I've been meaning to hit up Nathan as well.
You should. He'll show you. He's got the goods, man. He is like the weird historian of Kentucky. Like he's got a great mind. I love the way his brain works.
I love it. Oh my
Jim,
god.
I want to throw some look, speculative questions, I just have. But like I have been the last couple of years really using kind of like the John Keel method of taking a small microcosm of the geographical location where you are and just really looking deep into the history and belief systems, yada yada yada, and all the high strange, of course. One thing I'm finding, and then I've been finding this in other like states in the Midwest, where there seems to be a lot of UFO sightings, cryptid sightings, haunted places, I'm also discovering that there is also a lot of weird crime, like serial killers, Nazi type militias, and some real darkness. And then I started talking to Nathan, and some other researchers like, yeah, that's a thing. I don't know what it means, but where these hotspots tend to be, there's also like really weird history, weird political things, and even like serial killer, like hate groups and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Have you ever ran into that in your research, or like, is that something you have any thoughts on?
I mean, in Kentucky for sure.
Yeah, Kentucky.
Yeah.
That's the example, right?
Yeah. Kentucky is a great example. But yeah, I've run into that over and over again. One of those places most recently has been in Germany.
Oh.
I went to Germany recently to shoot a project that I believe Euphomet will be presenting called Occult Atlas. And
ooh, mama, that sounds good.
It's a paranormal travel and culture show. It'll be released by Spectrevision Radio, and me and a group of other like sort of intrepid researchers, experiencers, practitioners of the occult and esoteric, travel to places around the world to add context to their paranormal history by being there on the site and talking to locals, finding experiencers, and really also practicing experiments and rituals within the places that hold so many secrets for such a long time. And one such place is, this place called Externstein. And it is this rock formation that over the years basically has been co-opted by whatever governing party or power structure is sort of ruling the land, right?
Interesting.
So, at first it was possibly Germanic pagan tribes, right? Then it was potentially, Crusaders, and or maybe, kind of Knights of the Templar. So you see the artifice, the inscriptions, the ritual sites become adapted over time in this space. and then the church took this over and changed Odin into Jesus Christ.
Right.
And then Himmler and the Nazis and his paranormal research division. I believe it said the Honornabe, maybe
Something like that. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
My German is, oh my God. I can't believe I existed over there for 3 weeks. It was treacherous to say the least.
Yeah.
You know, they took over and now, you know, it's sort of like the very, you know, straight-laced, you know, logical German government has, you know, created a park out of this where families and stuff go and play kickball and picnic. But also at that site, remnants of all of those cultures from the past, such as New Age spiritual groups,
Right.
such as extremist neo-Nazis as well.
Mm-hmm.
These people are all still gathering at this space in which they believe to be a source of power. And I think even though this place isn't in direct relationship to, you know, high crimes,
Right.
it is certainly in relation to those. It is certainly in relation to what is this like strange source of energy that we find in these sites all across the world, whether they're on some sort of ley line or
Right.
it's some sort of vortex energy.
Uh-huh.
Why is it like some of these places, weird shit, crimes, strange behavior,
Yeah, belief systems,
cult-like
politics.
groups.
Yes.
Yeah, like why do they all like find these similar places? And one place that's really interesting is the Hollywood Hills.
Yes.
So allegedly, where the Hollywood sign is now, that region of was it Driftwood Canyon? What is it called?
Beechwood Canyon?
This region, which is Beechwood Canyon, is responsible for all sorts of high strangeness.
Oh yeah.
You know, spiritual movements have moved through that space.
The Theosophy Center used to be right by there. I mean, like,
right.
you know.
Yeah. The Crotona community was created there. There's been all sorts of strange like murders and UFOs and this idea that this is a vortex of some sort, and that is what collects this energy. It creates this, I guess, this urge for these communities to go on pilgrimage there, and some would say the people who erected the Hollywood sign knew this about this area, and that perhaps that Hollywood sign is like some sort of totem or beacon, and or you are just blasting the world of dreams into the other space.
Yes.
Right.
It's like a sigil for the weirdness, you know?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I love that. Well, I mean, it's almost reassuring to hear that you've stumbled across this too, because I'm like, and I had talked to other researchers too, but like sometimes I'm like, am I going crazy? Like, because like there's this area in Nebraska called Richardson County, which is the most unpopulated part of Nebraska, probably one of the most unpopular places in the Midwest. I think in the county it's like 8,000 people live there.
Right.
But there is a town called Fairbury, Nebraska, where the biggest Nazi propagandist in the entire world lives. It sucks. The whole town hates him. They're trying to like get him out, but he's like not breaking the law. So, anyways, he lives there. 5 miles away is the biggest serial killer in the history. And then, and then just like 10 miles up the road is this really famous cult called the Yahweh cult. It was a doomsday cult in the early 80s, and it was one of the most gruesome true crime events in American history. I mean, like stuff I won't even talk about. Yeah. You can look it up, folks, if you're a sicko. But it is truly like, but this, and not to mention, but then there's flying wing humanoids, a lot of alien black cats, UFOs. And so I'm like, this place is so unpopular, yet how can so many like insane things happen in this one little area that really is totally unremarkable?
Yeah.
But
yeah, are we seeing these spaces where the nature of reality has slipped, and that relationship, the power dynamic between this relationship is just much different between us and it.
Yeah.
And that its influence upon us in these locations where it has a greater power. You know, are we seeing that? I mean, again, this is, wild speculation, but so fascinating to consider. And especially like, listen, it's all there.
Yeah.
we don't know what's going on, but it's like, why is it happening in these places?
Why is it all there? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
why is it not happening where I live exactly? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe if I dug deeper, there would be, but like, I don't think so. Like, because you can, with newspapers.com, you can go into historical records fairly easy nowadays, and yeah, it's just undeniable to me. Like, I keep on looking at different states too. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I want to ask you, and I feel like you've kind of flirted around with answering this, but I'll come out direct. Like, I am, you seem like a kindred spirit where you're sort of an all-purpose weirdo. You're into all this stuff, not just,
Mhm.
a lot of people are just into Bigfoot or just into UFOs, but you seem to have an interest in a vast knowledge of all of these arenas. And it makes me wonder, do you see a relationship between these manifestations, like between UFOs, Bigfoot, cryptids, ghosts, psychic abilities, palmistry, all this stuff? Like, do you think
Mhm.
there is a common thread, or that is even emanates from the same origin? We're in the speculation station, so like
Yeah.
obviously, like
I love it, and it's only the biggest speculation that one could ask, I think.
absolutely.
Uh, there have been many smarter people than me trying to discover a universal theory around
Mhm.
these things.
Mhm.
I think anecdotally, I see that these experiences are all related. They are related through the spectrum of human experience.
Uh-huh.
I think that's their biggest connection. And they are possibly reflective over our willingness to participate, A, and B, a reflection of the things that we have experienced that we had no choice in.
Right.
Traumatic experiences,
Mhm.
I think, are foundationally one of the biggest inciting incidents for high strangeness to occur
Mhm.
in someone's life. And, sometimes that's like a sign when you really require it. And other times it's seemingly an entity that is like stalking you,
Right.
Um, they are willing to be a part of our greatest pursuits.
Mhm.
And if we listen, I think, tell us more about ourselves than what they are. And I think that's the defining relationship between all these things. I think they possibly could be connected.
Mhm.
I've heard from alien abductees, right, that are going through this traumatic event where they believe they are being taken in the night, or they've seen a craft and they've had some sort of contact experience and then get home, and then poltergeist activity starts to occur in their
Right.
house.
Right.
And we hear these stories over and over again, the connection to synchronicities and UFOs and creatures, etc.
Yep.
And even myself have been witness to and or experienced chains of events of phenomena that should not be related if categorized in an illustrated book somewhere, but that foundationally seem to be cooperating to develop a narrative with you. And you just can't escape some of this stuff, and it seems that they're all in cahoots, and there's nothing we can do, Steve, and they're just they got the upper hand, and that's all there is about it.
Yeah, just lean into it. Sometimes you just can't fight it, man. Like,
Yeah.
no, that was a wonderful answer. That was much more eloquent than I could describe my feeling. That was perfect.
Thank you.
I have this pet fascination kind of in the last year, where I just can't help notice, going back into old UFO books, Bigfoot books, paranormal books, that roads, as we all know, folks, are very highly liminal. But there are so many sightings and encounters on roads, be it a flying saucer with like a little, like landing gear will be in the middle of a country road, and people have a crazy experience, or Bigfoot crossing the road right at the last second, or a woman in white being on the side of the road. I have a bunch of those cases in Nebraska. Even in Nebraska, this one area that is really high strange, there's been a pan sighting on the side of the road by a
Wow.
trucker, right? And
Oh my God.
I'm wondering if you like if you have any thoughts on, I mean, like, obviously we're no one knows, but like, what's the deal with roads? Obviously, it's a means of travel, and so people would see something, but I feel like there might be something more to it.
Well, I'm gonna get real wild here.
I love it. That's what it's all about, baby.
I don't think we were ever supposed to travel that fast. I don't think we're supposed to go 60 miles an hour.
Okay.
I think that there's too much input being generated into our minds at that speed, like too fast.
Right.
And so I think it replicates some sort of meditative state in which things become more open
Right.
and the veil thins.
Yeah.
And I think because of this, there's all sorts of opportunities for these entities to be present in that space. There is a level of hypnagogia that occurs, I think, while on long trips, like out in the desert or at night. That, you know, if you're a trucker, you're, you know, taking no dose or methamphetamines or trying to you know, find your next victim, according to the FBI papers of recent. So, you know, yeah, I just don't think we're supposed to be going that fast. I think that's why things happen in the air too. We're not supposed to fucking be up there. What are we doing up there? It's none of our business. And the cosmos is not ready for that. We were not built for these things, and here they come.
Yeah, you know, like, I love it. This is your political platform. It's like, hey, let's stop with the vehicles already, man. Maybe a bike, but I don't know about the fifth gear. Only 2 gears on every 10 speed. Okay, we're doing 2 speeds, folks. Like, we have no business.
Yeah. No, you're gonna get what, you know. You're gonna get it. You know, be ready. I guess.
Right. I here's another one of my wild fascinations that I want to run it by you. So lately, I've been chatting with some folks who are way smarter than me about the concept of hyperstition. And for my listeners, if you just to remind you, hyperstition is a fiction that makes itself real, unlike a superstition that remains fictitious. I like this idea because it has a co-creative quality, and it's really about, like, it kind of goes back towards folkloric ostension, where, you know, people sometimes live out these folklores and take them so seriously. Like, oh, don't go into the woods and you might experience something, you know, where it's like a caution. Oftentimes folklore is a cautionary tale, right? But I do wonder if there's something in it where these stories somehow, as data, get inputted into a geographical location and then just sit there, and then you know, we graft these storylines and these folklores onto them that end up becoming real. I mean, it's like, obviously, I don't know, but to me, the idea of, like, the folkloric ostension and hyperstition, I'm like, I kind of think there's something to it in a weird way.
Oh my God, yeah, there totally is. I want to tell you a story really bad.
Ooh, dude,
about the Queen Mary.
Oh, can you? I stayed there. I got a concussion hitting my head on the.
Oh my God.
Yeah, those rooms are small.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Yeah, I'm too big for that.
You're okay? You didn't.
It's questionable. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, okay, so it's in a recent episode of, or it's in an upcoming episode of Euphomet, and I've talked about it other places already. So I'll just say it, but essentially, you know, the most haunted room on that ship was discovered to be a creation of Disney Imagineers.
No way.
Yeah. So these people kept coming up to the front desk after this hotel company bought the boat from Disney and said, like, oh, the cabinets are opening and shutting, the water keeps going on, this place is haunted, like, we can't stay there, get me out of here. And so that kept happening. They went to remodel the ship. They go into that room, they pull off the walls, and here are all the gears and levers and timers and everything else constructing this haunted experience in this boat. And Disney didn't tell anybody about it. They just left all that shit in, and it was just continue to run.
I love it.
Right? So this happens. They pull all that shit out. They're like, fuck, God damn it. Here we go. Pull it all out. We can rent this room again. It still had this notion of being a very haunted room. And sure as shit, people kept coming back up to the desk and saying
No.
the water's going on, the cupboards are opening, closing. The phenomena persisted after everything was taken out.
That is unbelievable. That I mean that I love that. That is so exciting to me because that is hyperstition and folkloric ostension in action.
Yes. Yeah. So I believe it. I think I've witnessed it. I think I've experienced these things. It could also, going back to these places, these vortexes and or these roads, these places that seem to inhabit a great deal of this activity over and over and over again, creating a legacy and a narrative of its own. I think that those could be partially, a participant in this hyperstition as well.
Yeah.
In that, we have built the beast,
Yes.
But yeah, when we, kind of create these narratives, take them away and they still happen, it starts to it at least like made me pay attention to what is my responsibility in this,
right?
And it made me a cautious artist in some respect in terms of the kind of messaging that I want to get through. Because I do believe that we are, listen, I love like a good cyberpunk dystopian narrative as much as the other nerd.
Yeah.
But a part of that like makes me think, are we doomed to live that experience if we don't like shift up what that is and go like, well, actually, what future do I know that's cool. There's neon and there's like whatever, like everyone's riding motorcycles. But like, can we have that when there's like water and stuff?
Yeah.
Like we can eat food still? Like,
dude, that is so interesting because like I mean like it's something that's been on my mind because like there is don't want to talk about politics and world events too much, but like the world is scary and tricky and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. And if enough people start feeling hopeless about the world, that might be the narrative we get. The hyperstition might create that. Or if I almost wonder if enough people believed we were going to get hit by a meteor, would a meteor redirect itself and come hit Earth? Like,
right.
I mean, that's wild speculation, but like it does, like you said, responsibility as an artist and a creator, like that is something to pay attention to. I actually never really, I mean, I understand the responsibility of an artist, but like the responsibility of an artist creating in these spaces, you're right. Like there is almost like a moral ethical code you probably should consider following. Like it could be dangerous otherwise.
Yeah, I think so. And like what does that mean about, I mean, there's a lot of like dystopic, there's like nihilist art that I probably gain inspiration from. But I guess it can't all be that, or that is where we'll head, I think.
Yeah. I think so too. Like art is almost like a hyper sigil. I mean, like actually, it is a hyper sigil.
Yes.
I think it's like when you put art out into the world, it's going to affect a certain amount of people, maybe not a great deal of people, but how it affects people can be dramatic. I mean, for myself, like art hits me like a sledgehammer, and I will redirect my life from artistic inspiration. So it has, had I never seen Twin Peaks at 12 years old, I don't know if I'd be doing what I'm doing right now.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
That was like a hyper sigil to me for sure. It kind of reminds me of are you aware of the Philip experiment?
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of hyperstition right there. So if the listeners don't know, and you jump in and help me, but if you want. But the Phillips experiment was done by these people, I believe in Canada, who created this character called Philip. And they gave it like a backstory, really went in depth with Philip. And they started doing, I think, like Ouija board or other forms of divination. And they started, and this character kind of came to life. And they had, I mean, whether you believe in spiritualism or not, but they were getting results as this character but they totally made up the character. But whatever entity was answering, like it was Philip.
Yeah,
At
and
its
you
fa-
start looking at this stuff, and it's like, and then you go down the rabbit hole of tulpas, right?
Mhm.
Or the Jewish Kabbalah will talk about the golem,
Yep.
and
Yep.
it's just throughout time immemorial, like we have been subject to this principle of creating, maybe not necessarily an entity, but a sense of an entity,
Yeah.
of creating. I mean, we're just creating vibe. That's all we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's articulated very,
That's exactly
very
it.
astutely.
Yeah. That's exactly it. uh, Jim, if you don't mind, I want to do a little something. I want to give you like a 40 or 45 seconds alone with the listeners. Just to maybe you can talk about something wonderful you've created in the kitchen lately, or whatever's on your mind. But this is for you and the listeners. I'm going to just step away.
Oh my God.
Here's 45 seconds, no pressure.
All right. Wow. Okay. Well, hello everyone. This is High Strangeness with Jim Perry. As you can tell, I had to create another high. I had to insert another high so I would not be in competition with Steve's program. High Strangeness. This is High Strangeness. And this conversation has been, I mean, really incredible. I love just going into these situations where I don't have to prep anything, because it's not really how my creative mind works. When I'm doing Euphomet, one of the reasons I go to these locations is that so I am prompted by anecdotal experience and what is happening around me, and I can recount them, because if I'm left to my devices, in which some piece of writing would require a tremendous amount of actual studious research, I will fucking fail over and over again on that. So this opportunity that Steve is giving me on my own program here, High Strangeness, 2 highs, remember everyone. It is it's an opportunity for me to stretch these wings again in terms of speaking, about the topic at large, with no borders, no barriers, just like God intended. I already did it. I did 45 seconds.
Dude, that was great. That's a tight 45. I can already tell.
I don't think I said anything.
That's
I think
good.
it was hyperbole, and that was
well,
it.
it's for extemporation. Like just whatever's
Okay.
on whatever's on your mind grapes. It's
Great.
just throw it out there. I think you killed. I can already tell.
Okay. All right.
Buddy, I've taken up a lot of your time, so I will let you go here pretty soon. But I want to throw a couple other if you have time, I want to throw a couple
Sure. Mm-hmm.
other weird ideas at you. So I'm wondering, Jim, if UFOs, you can kind of, like in the last 120 years, going back to the late 1800s with the flying airships, we can kind of track the evolution where we've seen it change. Maybe not in our own lifetimes, but going through history and reading the books, we can see how the phenomena has morphed and changed, maybe based on our evolution or where we are technologically.
Sure.
I'm wondering, have you seen or noticed or have any ideas about other manifestations of high strangeness or 40 odd or the paranormal had an evolution? Because it's hard for me to think. Bigfoot kind of seems like Bigfoot, although Bigfoot's getting weirder, or at least more weird things are being reported or allowed to be reported with Bigfoot. But I'm wondering, have you seen an evolution or a change in how these things are manifesting?
That is an excellent question. That is so fun to think about. It's obvious to me, I think, why the presentation of UFO would change, as its nature is one assumedly by some technology based. Those things will change as our technology changes. Like we have a hand in the development of what those things look like, and so what was fancy and fantastic back in the day with airships, you know, is not quite so any longer. So it's interesting to me how these things are changing. I think they also present in relationship to some of our, you know, greatest science fiction work, and it's reflective of those ideas, which maybe that's also hyperstition at work. But to think about another phenomenon that has changed as drastically, well, listen, I do have one. The nature of potential spirit communication through different forms of technology.
Okay, yes.
This is something that is cutting edge and brand new. My ideas about these things are evolving based upon actual experiments that I participated on. One of which involved artificial intelligence.
Ah, okay.
And there's a piece I'm working on right now in an ongoing series of experiments that I'm conducting with some really, really fucking incredible researchers that suggests our relationship to consciousness, to spirit, to ESP might soon be revealed and or dynamically changed based upon AI technology.
Very interesting, because it was only a matter of time before someone was going to start involving AI in conducting research or investigations. I am excited to hear what you're up to with that.
I cannot wait to tell more about it.
When will this this project be available? Because I'm dying to see it.
Yeah,
or listen to it.
Yeah, so a part of it, so it happened in Germany. The other researcher that is doing, I mean, who has been heralding this work, you know, she has been working on it for several years now, and is one of the preeminent sort of researchers and scholars in artificial intelligence and its implementation into different processes. And she's also a practicing occultist. And
Beautiful.
so these two worlds are merging in a very authentic and studious way. I have been granted access and the ability to collaborate and participate with this person, and some of those first sort of a look at what those workings have been. Ooh, I like that. They really were like experiments, but also they were kind of like workings.
Yeah.
Actually, wow. Okay, some of that will be seen on Occult Atlas, our new paranormal esoteric travel show.
I can't wait for that.
And also a part of a soon to be Euphomet feature as well. And then hopefully there's some sort of tracking of progress within, you know, I'm considering relaunching Night Drift, and or just continuing to release dispatch episodes, which will be a combination of monologue, interview, field tape, etc. Because Euphomet is coming back this fall.
Hell yeah!
We're going to launch in October.
All right, man. Yeah. That's great news. That makes me very happy.
Thank you so much. And so more will be revealed on that. But to answer your question, yes, like the nature of divination is changing.
Oh, that is exciting. That's a great example. Okay, you aced that question. You know, this made me think of something, and I think it might have been in Pennyroyal season 2. Again, Nathan Isaac shout out. But someone he was interviewing was a technologist, I believe, and an occultist. And boy, I actually know two personally. The only two magicians I know are both work in technology, which is we're finding a pattern here. So this is interesting. Yeah, right. But this guy was saying, like, what if you could do like for instance, like the Babylon working, Aleister Crowley's famous, like, you know, what if you could have an AI perform that ritual like 1 million times at the same simultaneously? Like, what kind of results, as opposed to one person performing this like month-long ritual of like, fasting, doing all this like intense stuff.
Right.
What if you could have a computer instantly, millions and millions, constantly be performing that? Like, what would happen? I mean, maybe nothing, but maybe it needs the human touch. But if humans built AI, it has the human touch. So
Right.
it's just something interesting to think about, and also scary potentially
Mhm.
to think
Mhm.
about.
Yeah, I mean, we have a new substrate of intelligence that has now been integrated into our society without a lot of information about what the fuck is actually going on with it.
Right. We don't even understand it really. Yeah.
We don't even understand about it because we don't even understand how the nature of reality works.
Nope.
You know, like, so things are going to continue to get much spookier and I think much more cool, like much more exciting in terms of what we will be forced to embrace as a part of our natural reality.
Right.
I think things are only going to get more. I don't think it's like as we learn more, things are just kind of boring and like whatever.
I totally agree with you. Things are going to
Yeah.
get more interesting.
Yeah, 100%.
The more you know, babe. Come on.
Yeah.
They were lying. I want to ask you one more weird question, if you don't mind. And that is, I'm probably like you, interested in the magic of place, right? You know, there do seem to be these kind of well-known places that seem charged or enchanted or a strange attractor, whatever you want to call it. You know, Sedona, Somerset, Kentucky, Chestnut Ridge in Pennsylvania, southern Wisconsin, Mount Shasta. The list goes on. And I'm wondering, do you have any thoughts on why these places seemingly have so much high strange action?
Hmm. I think a part of it could be the power that we give places. I think there could be some sort of geographic or sort of natural mineral like idea about that influencing a place. Let me take that again. Let me just try to like put that into words a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think potentially the natural. Sorry, I got a lot of like ideas about this swimming in my head because there's like so much potential to.
It's a big idea, man.
It's a huge idea, and there's something there because like things tend to pop off in relation to these places, and so maybe it's these places seem to all be liminal, right? They're here and there, they're in between. What we think is happening is that it allows space for the veil to be parted, and that if maybe geographically through maybe minerals, water sources, the level of magnetics, that potentially it has the correct alchemy has naturally been presented
I like
to
that.
increase the energy required to part said veil. And I think that's maybe what's happening.
Dude, oh god, that was a banger, man. Yes, exactly. I think you that's such a good way to put it. I like the alchemical term because it does seem it's hard to maybe point at one thing, but it seems like there like certain places have the ingredients to make the perfect high strange cake. Oh god, alchemy is so fascinating, man. I really need to read more about it. It really is so fascinating, man. Buddy, this has been so much fun, a real treat. I've really like, your I look up to you because I feel like like as I kind of enter this space and want to start offering more, more of like, high weird art, you're a person I looked at like, oh, it's possible to
Oh.
infuse high art and high strangeness together.
Thank you,
to
Steve.
make a really nice package. Well, thank you, pal. 'Cause
Thank
it's like
you.
it's really a relief to have your work out there, because when I found it, I was like, oh, this is so great. Like, it's truly just so impressed. I want to ask you, because I feel like your advice matters. What kind of advice would you give to people looking to get into this, as opposed to being someone on the sidelines, someone who wants to start participating, whether it's making little videos or writing a book or just wanting to get involved in creating in this world? Do you have any advice? Because I'm sure you've had things that worked and things that didn't work, and like, just like, what would you tell a young and aspiring 40ian?
Yeah. Listen, history never repeats, it rhymes, right? So look back first. Before going forward, there's probably hundreds of people that have written about or researched these topics that you are getting interested in.
Yeah.
Or that you are experiencing some sort of phenomenon within that you hope to express that curiosity outward.
Yeah.
Look back to see what has been. That will also help you create sort of your own perspective around these things and healthy boundaries around elements that are not so helpful to the development of curiosity. So, find your level of comfortability and extend just far enough out in terms of being open to have 1 foot in and 1 foot out to help yourself remain grounded.
That is so
Also, talk to people about it. Find your community. Express yourself in daring ways that no one else is doing it. Don't do the same thing everyone else is doing. Do it your own way. Do it authentically as an artist or a writer or whatever vision that you may have. Try to execute that, but there's no playbook to this. Do your thing and do it earnestly and honestly. Express yourself in that fashion, but also just try to remain grounded in the same space. Try to be a human being in this space. Know that at some point in time, other people may look to your work to help them either be inspired to enter a new situation and or remedy some sort of thing that is going on in their lives, because these are very personal things that are happening to people, not just like some sort of abstract concept.
Yeah.
So fucking respect it too.
Yeah.
And I guess that would be my advice.
And be nice, people.
Yeah.
It's not hard. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, and it's going to make you and the other people feel good. Like, be nice. Be, like you said, be a human being. And I love the thing, keep 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because I found myself down the rabbit hole a couple times where I'm too far deep. I'm like, whoa, buddy, hold on. Let's watch old Bill Murray movie, maybe. Go take your wife out for dinner or do something normal.
Yes. My God. It's so important.
It's so important. Jim, this has been amazing. Would you mind telling people where they can find more of your work?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for asking too. You can find Euphomet and all the other shows that I have a hand in producing right now at spectrevisionradio.com. We've got several shows that, the whole idea behind this network is that it bridges the gap between the arts and the esoteric or the uncanny. And so we have shows on there from incredible podcasters, storytellers, directors, writers, you name it. The shows that I'm working on right now very diligently is Director's Commentary with Mike Flanagan.
Oh, hell yes. That's awesome.
Extraordinary Evidence, ESP is Real with Mitch Horowitz.
Hell yes.
We're developing Occult Atlas as a video travel series presented by Euphomet. And of course, Euphomet is coming back this fall with brand new episodes. And I get to kind of re-enter the space of that really wonderful Euphomet community that I've had to be frankly just absent from for a very long time as I built this quietly over here in Los Angeles. And so I just can't wait to be reconnected with all these great folks, and then go to at Euphomet across social media, come to an event at the Philosophical Research Society. Our next one, I don't know exactly when this is coming out, but They happen monthly at Philosophical Research Society. So
Oh
please
my
check
God.
that.
I hope, well, I'm going to be in LA 2 times before the holidays, and I really hope it's during one of those events.
Me too.
Man, it'd be great. Well, and also we're going to have to book a spaghetti lunch and clock out for the day, and then take a nap. We'll get that. We'll get that in the books, buddy.
Count on it.
Yeah. Well, this has been so much fun. Really, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you have a wonderfully beautiful, weird weekend, my friend.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you, Jim. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of High Strangeness. Enjoy your dinners tonight. Peace.